These are the British forces for the Battle of Arras. We have a pair of Tilda 2s. It's not a tank platoon. These are still just regular platoon selections. We've got some officers here. We have the primary officer for the first platoon and for the second. We also have a medic over here, and he may be treating some of these lads. We have a couple of standard 10-man squads here. We have a mortar. We have a light howitzer apparently towed by a captured Wappel Blitz. And we have some smaller squads. The smallest one here of 5 men will actually ride in one of these 2 Bren carriers. Here we have a machine gun team, and that comprises about 1,250 points. Here we have the German defenders for the Battle of Arras. We're going to start out with a few interesting special characters here. We have Rommel himself, be designated by his Iron Cross, and he's got his special ability in addition to his usual major abilities. He can confer a +1 to shoot to any artillery piece that he is within 3 inches of. You can only do it 1 artillery piece at a time, so you just can't cluster them all together. Then we have our Iron Cross winner from Sickle Stroke. He's going to lead this squad. He counts as a veteran. Squad's are regular, but he counts as a veteran, just to give him his special status. We have some more officers here and here, because we had to go multiple platoons, just like with the British. Got standard infantry squad over here. And then we've got an air observer. He has some special rules too. This airstrike can only come in towards the very end of the game. And we've got ourselves a few more infantry squads over here. There's more of a full strength. There's a few less in here. Pair of machine gun teams. Back we've got some of the artillery. We've got the light howitzer, mortar that has an observer, and we've got the 88. That's kind of the whole point of this scenario, is the 88 and Rommel. You see it's got its toe there, the magic bus. It also has an observer. So this is also roughly about 1,250 points. They will start out as defender, and a lot of their units are going to be hidden, if not all. This is the French contingent for the Battle of Arras. These are the guys that didn't show up because the officer was killed in a car wreck, and the replacement didn't get those orders in time, so they did not join the British. To represent sort of a what-if sort of a thing, these guys can potentially show up on turn 3 and roll a 4 better, then on turn 4 and roll a 2, and they automatically come in by turn 5. They don't have a whole lot. It's 550 points total. You have a Samwa, you have a Panhard, armored car, and then just 2 regular 10-man squads, 1 light machine gun. Yeah, these guys, they will come in later in the game, and their entry point is over here, off this side of the board. These buildings sort of represent kind of the outskirts of the town, the far outskirts of the town. So they'll come in from over there, come down through this way, and we'll see when they join and what kind of an effect they have. So this is the what if part of Arras. The terrain on this table is a little bit different than the previous two battle reports. As I move down, you can see it's a little bit flatter. You don't have the central hill. You only have one of the ridges. You have a few ruined buildings over here. Actually got tutorials on how I made all of this stuff, including this road here. There's a recent series of blog posts. I even have posts on how I made, speaking of posts, those telephone poles. These are not objective markers. These are just going to be terrain. And again, these are some recent tutorials, even a video that I did on my blog on how I sculpted these, the Panzer 1, the Panzer 2, and how they were painted. So the tree stands are just like so. Let's focus in on this one here. When you have the laser pointer, you can see that corner of the forest. Same thing on this side. So that's going to designate that dense terrain where you cannot see on the other side. If you're inside, that's different. Or if you're on one side or the other, same thing over here with this forest piece. So that Panzer 2 you could see, but the telephone pole you cannot if you're on the other side of that. There's a few new things for this battle. I made some pin markers here. It's pretty obvious what nations those are from. We've got that green marker that designates hidden. I've done that before, but it's a little reminder here. That red one, that's going to indicate usually a permanent pin from either missing squad leader or maybe a three-man team down to one. The dice here, you've seen me in the previous reports use usually the lighter color dice is the heavier howitzer, medium howitzer, whatever, and the darker color dice is usually the mortar, something lighter, so I can tell who is ranging in. As usual, the dice are from Dice of War. You've got your French, British, and German. Overall, this mat, you can see a little bit more of it this time, because there's not quite as much massive terrain pieces covering it. That's from Table War. So you'll be seeing more of these mats. Lots more of these mats. And again, the road, I just completed a series of tutorials on that. There's some older ones again regarding the buildings, the painted backdrops, all kinds of fun stuff as it pertains to terrain. The deployment for the Germans, as you can see, I have some pin markers on them. I'll get into that in a bit. But they are deployed here in this loose defensive position right here. Some are a little bit better dug in. See the light howitzer and the 88 and some of the machine gun teams. They've been able to hastily throw up some logs and branches around them. So that's why they have the green hidden token. Most of the units have pins. This is just to represent the surprise of this attack. They just were not expecting something like this. Now you'll notice there's a few that don't have a pin marker, and that's one of our heroes from Sickle Stroke and Rommel. He also doesn't have a pin in the units that they're attached to. You can see they don't have pins, just that cool, calm leadership right there of the heroes of the Reich. So those guys won't have to deal with pins right away. But the British, they'll be coming on the board. Now some of these squads, they're out here in the open because they are going to maybe make a run for this communications network here, otherwise known as the telephone poles. So if they can get to these ones here along this main road, and they can take down 3 of those, they have a potential for delaying the French one more turn. That's why this squad is over here. They may even try and make a run for these buildings on this side. So there you have it for the Germans. There will not be a prep bombardment. The British didn't really have it that much together. They're just going to be coming on the board. And they're going to do that in turn 1. So the first order dice that were drawn happened to be German. Went down with the air observer, and then they went on to a whole spate of British dice. So we had a lot of running onto the board with the spotter here and mortar, a junior officer, and a machine gun team. They're just trying to get into those buildings. And then it got back to the German dice, and we're going to have Rommel himself do a little bit of a snap 2. So they're going to try and put the howitzer on ambush, and actually have this unit try and run, since the British units are otherwise occupied. So we're going to do the order test on the howitzer first, and that's going to succeed, because even with the -1, Rommel has the +4. So we remove that pin, and they're going to go on ambush. And now for this squad over here, that's going to try and run to maybe take out some of those communications. That will also succeed. So we're going to move that unit, and we're going to get to the next order dice. The British kept pulling order dice out of the bag repeatedly. So with the Germans in ambush on the road, the British thought it might be best to advance one of their wreckage carriers here behind this wood. They did a run, so managed to stay out of line of sight from the Germans there. And on the other side, we had another unit that apparently wanted to make themselves some tea. So they ran into this house, and apparently they've already made a mess of the place. So let's draw ourselves another order dice here and see what happens. So that one's German at last. And we'll get back to you with the results of what the Germans did with that dice. The Germans set the dreaded 88 to ambush. So that's really got this road really looking like a hazardous place to be traveling down. You've got both guns there in ambush. And the British continuing to draw dice. They're going to bring on their infantry. So let's see what the next dice is going to bring. That one is German at last. Now, when you think about some of the strategies both sides are thinking about, there's a variety of points that are available to the British for trying to get their vehicles and infantry units off the board. So you can't ignore, it's not all about the tanks, there's also the infantry. Also, they have to stop the Germans from taking down some of these poles, because they don't want the French to remain delayed. So there's a bunch of different things. It's not all about just the tanks and the 88. So with that German dice, we're going to figure out what they might do. Actually, I think Hans with his squad, they're also going to try and move out. And they're going to see if they can't beat the British to this telephone pole. And then we'll get to you with the next dice. We're going to have the machine gun team try to go around ambush. I have the support of an officer here, so the pin is basically ignored. And it's a good thing the officer was there, because they needed every last little bit of leadership. So the machine gun team now set in ambush, backing up Hans and his squad. Let's see what the next order dice will bring. That one is also German. And we're going to have, speaking of officers, going to have him try and shift his position and scoot over a little bit to the left. So let's roll this out here. That's going to be good. So that pin also taken away. And now he's going to get himself over there and do a quick little run. There's our officer. Let's see what the next dice is going to yield. That one's British. We're going to have to think about that because they're awful close to having to bring those vehicles out onto the table. Well, it was time to trigger one of these ambushes because the British just continue to draw dice. And we're going to put the Recce into Recce vehicles here. It's actually gotten the Germans to activate the light howitzer because that can still potentially take this out, and they have to protect the squad over here because now they are wide out in the open for some machine gun shots from the Bren carrier. So basically it's wide out in the open. Rommel is not with this gun, so it's going to take a 3. That is going to hit, and I believe it is a +2. And you've got armor 7. It's direct shot though, so I believe that's going to glance or do superficial damage, but I'm going to double check and I'll be back with the results. Now, the German tactic of using the light howitzer on the Recce vehicle, even though it didn't destroy it, definitely saved that unit's bacon because it now has a down order and an extra pin. Next dice was German, and you can see that they executed a run order here. Had to do an order test, and with the leader right there, it gave them the extra boost that they needed. So again, they're running up to either take out these extra communications here, and they don't necessarily just want to cede these buildings to these British guys because there's a whole convention that's going on right here around these buildings. So again, there's a lot of stuff to factor in with the artillery at the other end of the board, but there's definitely some other elements to this battle. And remember, the French will be coming through here at some point too. So I'll get with the next dice and see what happens. The next dice was German, and the spotter trying to range in on this building here with the British unit inside. They did manage to pass their order test, and that's going to be a miss, but it's now going to be a 5 on this building for subsequent turns. So who knows, this British squad might want to move out here and take a position up by the fence post. So we'll draw the next dice and see what happens. There were a few more German dice that came out of the bag at last. And the officer run over here behind the Panzer I wreck. The machine gun team passed their order test, so they went into ambush. But for defenders, these Germans really are moving out here, so they also passed their order test. And you can see there's going to be potentially 3 of these communication lines taken down that could really delay the French. In the meantime, now that the British are aware there's some guns over there, they're bringing in their own artillery right here. We're going to get the next dice and see. There's just a couple of British ones left, and that one is British. And now that they're aware that there may be guns out there, I think they're still... Yeah, we're going to try and bring on one of the Matildas here. Now, do we necessarily want to bring that down the road? I think now that they know there's an 88 out there, they don't know exactly where it is because it's hidden. I think they're going to stay off the road. So let's move them over this way, over here by this fence. So, I believe they can't be seen by the 88 now. And they can potentially do a little machine gun action over here on that German unit. So we're going to grab some dice here. It's going to be 5 machine gun shots. So it's going to be a -1 for moving. And the range for machine gun, it's going to be just inside of range. So move, and there is going to be some light cover because you've got that set of bushes, you got telephone pole. So we've got our 5 shots here. And these are dice of war dice, and they're going to need 5. And if you add those all together, you might get 5. So at least they don't lose the Matilda. And the next dice is British. And we'll see what happens, because the only other thing that's left is to bring that Matilda on. So we'll see what we're going to do with that. The first order dice to turn 2 goes to the Germans, and the light howitzer attempted to fire at this Recce vehicle right here, the Brand Carrier. It's got a tricky thing to can Recce away because it has no order dice on it, but doesn't want to block the path of these advancing units here. It also has to watch out for some advancing German units. So about the only thing this can do is take advantage of its spin on a dime and go about 6 inches and sort of back. So just like I talked before, it is now blocked. You can see the laser pointer blocking the view from the howitzer. So that dice is expended. We're going to grab ourselves another dice here. That time it's British. We're going to think about that, see what they want to do. They have a couple of vehicles here. They also have a unit that's being ranged in here. So we'll see if they want to try and stop these German units from going after these telephone poles here. So I'll be back with that in a jiffy. The next order dice was British, and that unit moved out of the building that was getting ranged in, and their target is going to be that German squad over there before they can get to that telephone pole and cut off the communications. So there's 1 light machine gun in there, there's some rifles, and I've added the extra dice, 2 extra dice actually, for rapid fire, the national rule. Now they had moved, makes it a 4, and that unit had at least soft cover, making it a 5. So it looks to me like 3 hits here. That was a little bit below average, and they will need 4s because the regulars, it's a 1 kill, 1 pin. And I'll take him out. And we're going to go with the next dice and see what we got. That is also British. Now there are some choices here. You've got this unit. I don't think they can advance to that wall and shoot. I think they'd have to do a run order right there. These units over here, the Bren carrier, this unit, they're pretty much locked behind all this terrain. So what I may just do is try to get this artillery piece in place. And then we'll be back with the next dice. The British did indeed move their light howitzer into position. Drop that down with that first order dice. Obviously, they want to have a field division down this way. Maybe even take on the 88 in sort of an unusual artillery duel. Both of these German units moved here to be in contact with those poles. They got to stay there for a whole turn. And they can't go down either. They have to actively try and chop those poles down. So the next dice after that was British. And the mortar observer here is going to do a fire order for your mortar team to shoot there, because they do have a line of sight right over here. We go. So let's do this. And you can see it's got the line of sight right over to that team. So they're going to try and range in. That's the usual 6. That was close, but not quite close enough. So that's going to be a 5 next turn, and those guys got to stay there. So that was the reason why they were targeting them, just to make them maybe pay a little bit of price for being on that target. So your next one, also British. I think what's going to happen here is this machine gun team is going to move up into here, into this building, because they can now fire over that cover. So that's basically a run right there. Now let's see what the next dice is going to yield here, coming out of the hat. That one is also British. We've got an officer team over here. So they're just going to move up here. Just take a position right there. Let's get to the next dice. It's kind of happening fast here. It's going to slow down once these other units start to move and get fired at. So this one's also British. Now this squad over here, I don't think. Let's grab our little ruler right here. Let's see what happens. Okay. So yeah, 6 inches just doesn't get him in contact with that wall. And I'd say that it would, between the moving and everything else and the cover, it would be 7s anyway. So I think they are actually just going to run to that wall. Although, yep, and so they're actually, good thing to do that now, because that ambush is not going to work, because they'd have to fire right over the heads of their buddies, and you can't really do that with the machine gun. So we're just going to move these guys over here. I'll do the rest of that movement, and we'll do the next dice. So both sides, for offense, defense kind of thing, both sides are starting to close. That's why I added this little extra thing here with these minor objectives like this that can alter the trigger. So I'll catch you with the next dice. With the next order dice, the German mortar team decided to target this machine gun unit that just gotten up to the top floor. That was a miss, but you can see they're starting to range in. Then they got the next dice, and now this standard squad, 1 machine gun, the rest rifles. They moved up and try and target this British unit here. I've got the dice set out. You've got the machine gun here with Hitler's buzzsaw. You have 4 rifles that were out of 12 inches. 4 that we're in. So we'll roll these, move for 4. And that unit's going to be in hard cover, so it's going to need 6s to do anything. And looks like I see a pair of 6s here. So get these out. And the Brits are also regulars. That's a kill. However, there is a medic. He's down, and he does not save that life. So this unit now has a pin. Medic needs to go back to training school here, and we're going to lose 1 member of the team, and then we're going to look for the next dice. And the next dice is British. So looking at what's left, you've got mostly armor, the Recce vehicles. Actually, speaking of which, I got to put one on this Bren carrier that Recce'd away. Give him a down order. So I think what we're going to do is probably move this Bren carrier. This one actually has the squad inside. So I think they're actually probably going to take a position here into the woods. See if they can't target that team over there. It's trying to take down that telephone pole. So we're going to draw the next dice here. And see what happens with that one. That one's German. And there's the down order on that. We had to run through the woods there while it's advanced, but again, the other team is just behind cover. So the Germans have to figure out what they want to do. They're actually going to try and, I think they're going to try and move that vehicle over there, the SDK-7, the school bus. Maybe get it back over where the 88 is. Alright, so it's passed its test. It loses its pin. And it's going to just do a move. We're just going to have him get over here in position where he can drive through the woods. Hopefully not over the observer for the 88. That was more just practically a down order over there. Looking for the next dice, which is going to be British. So we're going to contemplate that, and we'll be back with that result. So after a whole bunch of order dice for officer teams and observers and spotters that mostly either went down or slightly shifted their position, we got down to the last couple of dice. And this is going to be interesting because this unit here wants to try and take out this final communication device, and they're fine. So they pass that order test, the pin goes away, and all they can do, they can advance to the pole here. You got to be in contact with it. Now they may be able to do some shooting here. I'm just going to move these guys into position, trying to keep them in as much cover here as possible. So we've got them in position. Question is, what can they shoot at? Do they go after the mortar observer here? And that may be not a bad target. It takes an order dice out of the bag, and well, might stop the mortar from targeting these other units. So you've got the machine gun for 5 for Hitler's buzzsaw, and I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rifles. You can check the range. So only a few of them are actually within range. And he's an observer, so they're going to need 7s. 6 followed by 6. I'm going to grab a few more of these here. Well, there's some opportunities, that's for sure. 3 chances to go after that observer. And none of those are going to hit, so no pins. But they're now in contact with that final pole. So all 3 now have a squad in contact. They have to still be there in contact with it. Doesn't matter how many pins they have, or if they're down or not. We'll see how that works out. Now this is where things get a little more interesting, because the last order dice is right here. And as it is, that's got a decent line of sight to them. That doesn't have the one-man turret rule like the French tanks, but it is slow. And I'm going to think that its machine gun is probably within that 18-inch range. I'm going to measure it just to make sure. And actually, no, it is just out. So they're going to, it's one or the other. They're either going to have to move and suffer the penalty, or stay there and suffer a range penalty. So the range is going to be a 4, and got the cover for 5. It's going to be 5 dice, and looks like we got 2. So put the pin back, and 2 more casualties. So that unit, that's starting to get ground down a little bit. So I think next turn, oh, that's right. Actually, they can't stay down because they're actively trying to chop down that telephone pole. So the Matilda, that does its job, putting a little bit of pressure and fire on them. That's the end of turn 2. We'll see what turn 3 brings. So before turn 3 gets started, we're going to activate the ambush. That means the idiot is no longer hidden, and it has a direct line of sight to the freshly placed British howitzer, and there's no cover there. Check the range. It's basically just going to be a 3, and that is a 2. So that is a, oh, actually they can't activate their ambush. Never mind, you have to roll a 4 better to do that. So now we're going to look and see what happens with the French if they arrive. Going to get our dice here. So this is the start of turn 3. They need a 4 or better. And they can show up. So the Germans, they didn't quite get to these poles in time. It actually wouldn't have mattered, even the +1. So that's going to be interesting. Now the French are just they're going to arrive in bits and pieces, because it's not really fair for them all to arrive at once. They have to choose one of their units to come on the board at this point. And I think it may just have to be the Samoa, because the infantry right now, it's the other reason why the German units moved here, is just to make it more hazardous for infantry to arrive. So the French can arrive, their order dice go in the bag, and we'll see what happens. One of their dice is going to go in the bag. And we'll be back with the rest of turn 3. So the first several dice, ironically, were German. And I read my own scenario again, and all the French dice are in the bag, because they don't just magically come on. They have to be drawn and then placed on the board. You can see this unit, they must have heard the rumbling of French vehicles or something, or just the smell of tasty food. They ran away from this spot over here, and the machine gun team went on ambush. There was one more German dice, and they are going to attempt to do a little mortar action on that unit in the building. Ranged in, and that is not a 5. Goes to a 4. As I saw the 5, it was almost there. Now there's a whole bunch of order dice right here, all kinds of different colors. And what's it gonna be? That is another German dice. Now this unit, there's not really a safe place they can run to. They're almost better off either just going down. I was thinking about putting the 88 into some kind of ambush. But for sure, what I am going to do is put that howitzer in ambush, just in case some of the French units try to advance a little too far along that road, because this has a really good line of sight. Let's see if I can make this happen. So you can see there's your howitzer there. There we go. There's your howitzer. I can see all there's a clear line of sight there. So we're going to grab the next dice here and see what happens. This one's German. That's really going to be interesting. And it is, wow, it's German. They need to either react somewhere. They have a few ambushes set. They just did the fire order on the mortar team. I think that officer team, I think they're just gonna skedaddle also, because they're just kind of sitting there waiting to get shot at. So I think they can run through their own guys. So there you go. We want to preserve them. And we're gonna grab the next dice. That would be really strange if it was German. Ah, that one is French. So now we really have to see what we want to do. And we'll get back with that dice. The French chose to bring on the Samoa. Did not have to do an order test, because this is sort of like a first wave. Not treating these as typical army reinforcements here. The machine gun team, they're still hidden. And I think you'd need a recce vehicle to see them from that far away. They are going to try and take some pot shots at that unit over there just to see what they can do. Obviously, probably a machine gun shot, because movement is 4. And we're going to give them hard cover for 5, 6. So we've got 5 dice right here. And wow. Oof, almost the third 6. So that's actually gonna do a little bit of pins and the regulars. So 1 is going to die. I'll take that one off, put the pin on there, but right now I'm just gonna grab a dice, see which one it is. That one's British. There's all kinds of stuff going on with the British, so we're gonna get back with that dice in a minute. The British chose to move that Matilda slow, moved it to 6 inches, and as expected, they're gonna shoot at this squad over here, and as expected they went down, because they're gonna take fire from all different angles here. So we got the 5 shots, moves 4, cover 5, and down. Gonna need super 6s. There's 1 chance. And that will be a miss. So that's going to make them, wow, a little easier to hit from the French side as they're coming in on the road. Next dice, that one's German. So we'll be back with that one in a second. So there were a few order dice. The British moved their machine gun team to get out of range of a mortar. And they drew another dice. And speaking of mortars, they're going to take a shot right here at these guys before they have a chance to move. And they need a 5. There's a 6, so that's a hit. And template-wise, it looks like you can get 4 tops, and they will also go down. So that drops now to 2. You have those hits, but those are both going to be dead. Is it anything of note? It's nothing of note. And it looks like it's going to be a pair of pins. So they're down. We're going to lose 2. And this is now fully ranged in with the British mortar. And next dice, that's also British. So this could really, the whole point of doing this was to see what if the French had arrived. So this is obviously bringing in potentially 500 plus points, where the Germans had kind of been caught out in the open. Now, there is an airstrike that's going to come later. So, little batches of units like this over here, this is not going to be healthy, because you're going to have a whole bunch of Allied units just sitting over here. It's kind of what the Germans had planned to do to respond to those sort of attacks. So we're going to get back with this dice in a second here, let you know what happened. Now things are going to get interesting now, because the Matilda has taken a chance. It's moved up into these woods, and it's got that officer team in its sights. And they chose to go down. It's going to be really tough to hit them, even though they're out in the open. I'm going to do a double check here for super short range, which they are not. So move is 4, small team 5, and we're back to super 6s because of the down. Now I'll get this here so you can see it. There is 1 chance for a 6, followed by a 1. Now the problem is here at that 88, believe it or not, it now can clear that unit. So Matilda had to move that far to be able to see him. It's just, we'll see what happens. There's going to be a lot of negative modifiers to that 88, although Rommel does confer a +1. That's it for this dice. I'm far away from where the order dice are, so I'm going to pull another one, and we'll get to you with that dice. Yet another British dice. Yeah, we're going to have them shoot at the German squad that just went down. It's got a couple of pins on it. They're trying to hide behind that tree and that destroyed Panzer II. This is the one that's transporting that squad of 5. So it's got the 1 machine gun, not 2 actually. And it's moved for 4, down 5, 6, and it also has cover. So we're in that 6, followed by a 6. There are no 6s to be had. So going down, it's saving the Germans, but boy, they're really stuck out in the open. And we're going to draw another dice to see if maybe the infantry unit can hop out of there. Although it could be a little bit deadly for him to assault. Now the next dice is going to be, that is British. I think instead of assaulting, because it would only be 5 versus 6, I think we're going to get them out and they're going to shoot. Here they are. Now, interestingly enough, the machine gun that is on ambush is blocked by the officer team that is down. So there's an awful lot of these crazy lines of sight that are just blocked here. So what they're going to do is try and avoid basically getting in their own way. I want to make sure they're at super short here. So our guy with the pistols telling him, hey, target that unit right in front of you. We are actually going to also have a little bit of rapid fire take effect. That's going to be 4 from the machine gun. 1 for the rapid fire, and then there should be 3 rifles. They moved, but they're at super short range, so that's negated. It's a 3. Down for 4, 5, and still in cover, but now it's 6s. So they have a chance. Certainly at least put a pin on this here. I'm going to move this. Now there's 1 6 for a pin. And that's a 2, so nobody's dead. The unit's living a charmed life. It's been hit by mortar fire and a whole bunch of other things. But being down has certainly saved it. We're going to draw another dice here. Uh-oh, it's really starting to, when it rains it pours, and it's raining British dice right now. So we'll get back with that one in a second. We're going to have a lot of action happen here because the French unit just came on the board. It's going to activate the ambush from that machine gun over there that's been waiting a long time just for this moment right here. Now, this team is going to get some benefit of hard cover as they come in, because there's the Panther 2 in the way, there's some shrubs and whatever. So, I think we've got, I'm going to just place this here. And there'll be 6 dice for Hitler's Buzzsaw. So, the range is not going to be an issue. There's no movement, obviously. So, you're looking at 5s. Man, there's not a single 5. So the French are going to get their full complement of dice. These are going to represent the machine gun, because all the rifles are going to be at long range and they are shooting at that squad beyond the Panzer II because they couldn't see that team before. So here we go. And, well, let's see, the rifles for sure we're going to need a 5 because of move, range. Actually I need 6s because cover. So the 2 machine gun shots, those are hits. This is going to have a pin. And 4s to kill. That's 2 more. So the French are really targeting those Germans pretty good. A lot of pressure. Now there is an officer team back there, so the pins can definitely be minimized, and Rommel's over there. But that's going to be the loss of 2 more guys. And they don't want to take out the loader. Take out one of these. So the French reinforcements have already started to make a big difference. And our next one, oof, that's British. All of those ambushes that the Germans had, that's hurting them now that the French are on the board and they have their dice in the bag. But again, Arras was a British victory, and that was without the French help. So now they have French help. And we'll get back to you with this dice and see how it works out. With that ambush activated, there was no reason for this British squad to hang out behind the buildings over there. They also had to consider making room for those additional French units to come on the board. So now there's a place you could basically swap positions with a French unit over here. Actually, I guess that one guy's left behind to point out that space for him. However, at this point, the Germans chose to activate yet another ambush over here, and that is on their light howitzer, which has actually a really good line of sight to these guys. So we're going to check for range, but I'm pretty sure that's probably at long range. We'll double check. Yeah, it's 48 to 24. That is long range. So it's going to be 3s because they're basically out in the open. So there's their dice tray. That's actually going to be a hit, and they are clustered pretty well. So that was the order test that they passed, but now there's going to be some pins redistributed. So they get hit by that. And it is a light mortar. They can't go down. And it looks like, just like before, well, actually can get 5. So at a +2. Oof, okay. Well, it wasn't as devastating kill-wise. That's 3. Does the Bren gun go away? Nope. So there's nothing special. How many more pins are we going to dish out? Just 1 more. So, actually, they're not too horrible. It's going to cost them a little bit in terms of their rapid fire. But now, who knows, maybe they even assault that machine gun team. It's all about putting pressure. So this is supposed to be a British assault. The other thing that also happened with one of the other British dice is this unit here hopped into the truck because it's a game of movement, and while they get points for kills, they get a whole lot more points for getting units off the board. So that is their primary goal here. Can't lose sight of that mission. We're going to be back with the next dice. Once again, had a few more British dice. Officer team here, moved over to support this. Thought about doing a rally, but I think they want to press. They want to press the attack here, so they're actually going to do an advance. Now they do have to do an order test here, which, let's see, they're regular, down to a 7, +2, so that's actually going to work. Then I'll get rid of 1 pin, and they're going to advance to about here, and that means now they can take aim. Well, actually, they better get a little bit closer to their own guys here, so, because that is not, we don't want them being assaulted by that German squad. No, we just want to get over here and actually get out of line of sight of that howitzer, even make it tougher for the 88. And they got rid of a pin. So there's a few dice left in the bag here. That one is French. And they're actually going to go down with that other unit of infantry. We still have the armored car off board. That one is also French, and they're going to do the same thing because there's a real traffic jam over there. So we've got 3 British, 3 German dice left, and that one is German. They have a lot to contemplate, so we'll be back with that dice. The Germans really need to slow this advance. They're not going to be able to get some easy hits on vehicles, and Rommel is positioned here by his 88, and while it may not be an armored vehicle, this now presents a juicier target, so the British just didn't get to move it in time. That's one of the dice that's left, is that vehicle. And there's 2 left, and it's the howitzer. These are the 2, you're looking at this right here. These are the 2 dice that are left, and the Germans were able to beat him to it. And because Rommel is there, this would normally have been a 3. It actually becomes a 2, because remember he gives a +1. Man, they didn't even need Rommel. That really helped him target. So that we don't really have to worry about penetration. That's going to be a couple of rolls on the dice right there on that damage chart. And that is going to be on fire. Well, it's actually soft skin. It's not open top though. So it's definitely going to get a pin. And I believe it gets 2 more. First we'll roll 4. Whoops, wrong dice. That's actually going to get a couple more pins. I'll just put these right here. Good thing that officer is right there, because now there is a morale test to be done. That is, even with the 3 pins, that still only would have been an 8. So, I believe the vehicle somehow managed to survive that. No, that should be knocked out because that is a soft skin. I'm going to do a quick little rules check here and make sure, no matter what, the guy's going to have to get out. So, alright, well, see that collection of British flags right there? Well, that's a whole bunch of pins. When I looked at the results, it was on fire. The fire was put out. But over here at the immobilized result, that was 2. That British unit has to exit the vehicle and go down. They don't take any wounds, but they definitely lit a fire on them. Speaking of fire, this order dice here, the light howitzer is going to try and do some return fire on that 88. Range is going to make it a 4, and that thing is also considered to be in hard cover, and that is a 1, so not a whole lot happens there. There's a few order dice left in the bag. That one is German. That's going to be a down order on a truck. This one is British. That is this squad over here. And I think they're just going to stay in their spot, and they're going to try and shoot at that German unit that's down. So they have their machine gun. That's going to be 4. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rifles. And they still have over 7 guys, right? They have 2, 4, 6, 7. So that's 2 for rapid fire. They didn't move. Did not move, but we're looking at 4, 5 for down and 6 for cover. Oof, out of all that, there is just 1 6. And nobody dies, but it's another pin. That was the last order dice of turn 3. So as we start to look on the board here, see what's happened on turn 4, there's going to be a lot more that happens here. But remember, if they break up this little party that's going on, that airstrike could really be kind of devastating. So, look around the board, it's a lot of pressure on the Germans here. A lot of guys in range of some British firepower, but back here, this slowed down the advance here. So these units are just going to have to rally, and they're not going to be doing a whole bunch. So that helps the cause just a little bit. So we're going to be back with turn 4. First dice of turn 4 was French, which means they've advanced right up to that wrecked Panzer II. They're going to take aim at that same squad again. So they have the light machine gun. They've got the rest are rifles minus the loader. So they move for 4. But the Germans now, not enough of them are in cover. So 4s. There's going to be, looks like it's at least half our hits. And these will also... Oof! Oh my goodness. Wow. That's rather historic. So, that's 4 chances to take out something special. 5 guys are going down as it is. Okay. That's less historic. But still, that is 5 guys, and that is most definitely going to be some kind of a test. Actually... Well, we're going to take out the loader, so all that's left is the machine gunner and the officer with 3 pins. Now, of course, you do have a lieutenant behind him, so So that is 6, 9, I think even actually without the assistance of their lieutenant behind them, they're okay, but they are in bad shape. Now the French units that come on that side of the board, they cannot actually waltz off the board to get points. It has to be a British unit off the board, because the French are kind of considered to be off the board. Speaking of British, there's a British dice, and we're going to see what happens with that, and be right back. So crazy as it might sound, at this point in the game, according to victory points, the Germans actually have a 2-0 lead. Because as you can see, this telephone pole was knocked over. They're not down, they're still there. It's the same thing on that other telephone pole. So it's not going to be a negative on the French. They do get some credit for doing that. And now the British are going to try and take advantage of that ranged in. Well, maybe they're not going to take advantage of it, because that right there is a miss. That's actually a major swing right there. Now that unit may still get wiped out by all the stuff coming up to it. Speaking of which, there's more British. And since that machine gun is not on ambush, what this squad right here is going to do, they're going to... Why should they even move? Yeah, we'll let the Recce carrier move around them. So they're going to take their shots, hopefully maybe do a little bit better than the mortar. So they're just going to stay in place and fire. So you've got machine gun and 1, 2, 3 rifles and 1. Let's see if I can get this so you guys can see it. Yep, there you go. Now they are at super short range. They have not moved, so everything is going to hit on 2s, although it didn't do so good for the mortar. Now that's a wee bit better. So we had a whole bunch of hits there, pretty much enough for each guy. I guess they could have gone down, but then they would have had to say that sooner. So, and I think that might just take care of them. Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 left. Nope, there's actually still somebody left. One guy has survived. This is going to be like Hans from the last game. So let's see what these 2 6s were. Oh, and they're going to take out the light machine gun because they can get the gunner back. So that leaves everybody dead except for the NCO. And he's got to do himself a test with a whole bunch of negatives. And believe it or not, I think he just passed. Let's shift this over here where you can see it. Because even with that new pin, that's 5 pins. That's a 9. So he survives somehow. But now that'll be 1 point if they can wipe out that squad. So, but this one is German. Let's see if he can maybe save himself. So we'll be back with that in a minute. So the Germans managed to grab a couple of order dice here in a row. The officer team decided to hightail it away from this Matilda, because I think that probably would have been enough to wipe them out. Plus, you still have that brand carrier over there that could shoot. But by moving that officer, now this machine gun team has line of sight. And that's kind of what they were looking for, to shoot that British squad sitting over there. So we've got our 6 shots there now, standing there wide out in the open. British thought they could get a dice, maybe get them cover with the other vehicle. So that's just going to be, I believe, straight up 3s. I'm going to do a quick check here for range. Oh, and they are just in range. So it is indeed 3s. Well, that's going to put a pin on them at least. And they are still regulars. Well, that's going to kill a bunch. What does it kill? Nothing special. But it's going to be 3 guys here. It's going to leave the officer and the gunner. Now they are within range of their own first lieutenant, so they are good. There's, after first couple of turns of jiggering around, positioning oneself, now we're starting to get some real firepower going on. Next dice. That one is also British. Now, Matilda, that pops out from behind the trees here. Now it is, I know there's a tree there, but the 88 actually does have sight. So if it moves, it's not necessarily a really going to be a great thing for it. So I think what they're going to try and do is a coup de grace with the Bren carrier on that last surviving member of the German team. It successfully took down that telephone pole. Now this is going to have to move like so. And we're just going to consider him still in hard cover. Well, actually, it might not be the greatest move. I think what this is going to do then is move. Actually going to shoot at that machine gun team, because they have lost their hidden by firing themselves. So let's grab some dice for the British here. That's going to be 5 shots. It's basically going to be 6 followed by 6, because he counts as a small team. They moved. Oh, never mind. Wrong, guys. We're shooting at the machine gun team. That's over here. So move for 4, cover 5s. There's just the 1 5. They are regulars. So they're going to suffer a loss. We'll get him the pin. And we'll get him a wound marker. And we'll be back with the next dice, which is also British. So that Matilda, that's going to stay right where it is. It's going to target this team. See if it can either put a second pin or, better yet, wipe it out, because there's only 2 guys left. It has not moved. It is a small team, however, in cover. So it didn't move. So base 3, small team 4, cover is 5. So there's 2 hits. That's a pin. However, nobody dies. So that's just going to throw another pin. And we're going to grab ourselves another dice, which that one's British too. We'll be back with it in a second. So as turn 4 continues, we had a few self-preservation moves. We had a British unit pass their order test to get rid of their pin and get back behind the wall, because there's potential fire they're going to take. And this, believe it or not, we may have another Iron Cross to award here, because even with 5 pins and no officer in sight, Dietrich over here managed to pass his test and ran at least into some kind of cover. So, because he accomplished his mission right here. We have another mission here. We're going to have the first snap 2 of the game. So this officer here, the first lieutenant, is going to try and get these guys to rally. He's going to actually try to have this thing advance, and maybe even just try to put a pin on that 88 to make things a little more difficult. Take away that Rommel bonus. So let's do the rally first. And this, there's still a full strength. Whoops. That's not going to work. So they're going to go down. That's not actually the worst tragedy in the world. We need this to pass. We're actually looking at a pin here, and that one passes. So pin removed. And they're going to actually advance a little bit to make sure they're in range. And also, the idea is to try and block line of sight to this truck, or at least give it some kind of cover, do something. So it's got its, actually got 2 machine guns. That's the first time this thing's actually had a chance to fire. So we're going to grab ourselves some more dice here. Get as close to 10 as possible. That's 5. We're going to need a couple more. Well, I know those 6s are going to work. Let's see if they can tack on a couple of more here. So that's it, but those 6s definitely going to hit. Move. Well, let's see, move for 4. Range is going to be 5 because that's over 18 inches. 6 for cover. Now it has a gun shield. So nobody's going to get hurt, but they do distribute a pin. Could help, could make a difference. We'll be back with the next dice. So it appears that the gunfight between this British unit behind the wall and the German unit out in the middle of the road, and that's going to continue. Even though there's more German dice in the bag at this point than Allied, they chose to go down because there's going to be a whole lot of dice here coming from the British. And now instead of it just being 4s, now you're looking at 5, 6. So let's get the dice out here. We've got their extra firepower included in here. So that's actually going to help them out there. So 4, 5, 6. I see no 6s. They would have taken a pin. Pin and possible casualty. Next dice is German. So we're going to be back with that and see what they can do in reply. So the German howitzer took a shot here at the Recce vehicle. It has an order on it, so it could not move away. Now I got that pin, and it did a few other things, but it got hit, and now that same 5 is going to be needed to do damage, and that's not going to do it, so no penetration of the vehicle. But there's a pin. Next dice. That's also German. And does the 88 want to tackle that? Actually, the 88's going to do... It's going to do the same. We have to keep that that French tank honest. So actually, we have a better plan here. I'm going to take this over here. And that machine gun is going to take some shots at the French unit. And we're only going to give it... well, I guess we're going to have to give him hard cover here. So this is going to be 6 shots for Hitler's buzzsaw here. Let's get this where you can see it. Man, they needed to roll a little bit better than that. So the 1-5, it's going to put a pin on him. And it will actually cause a casualty. Next dice. That one is also German. Yeah, let's see. Before that other squad gets wiped out, now as a few guys left, we are going to try and run them backwards. They've got the officers, so they're actually sitting at an 8. However, that's a 9, so they're going to actually go down. Next dice. That one is British. Now contemplate, and we'll be back. In an effort to make some room for those French units that still have to come on the board, we have someone making an order test here because of the one-man turret, which means now I can fire at that machine gun team. It's going to be 4s for move and 5 for cover. 5 shots from the machine gun, and there is 1 hit for a pin, and they are regular, and a 1 is not going to kill him. I'm going to go to the next dice. That 1 is also German, and we may have some retargeting here of the mortar. That machine gun team's going to have to move. We have a cluster over here, so we're actually going to put a fire order on this to hit that squad right over there. That's going to need a 6. Not a 6, so that'll range in on a 5 the next turn. And order dice. That one is French, and they are now actually going to have to roll to come on, because that first turn was automatic. This is no longer automatic, so we are going to try to bring on the officer. And he's at a -1, but he is regular, so the officer is going to get on the board. And there he is. And he's going to get right behind his guys. We'll just throw out his staff car, which now originally the French officer was killed in a car crash, and that is why he did not receive the orders in time. The new officer, by the time he got there, he had no idea what the plan was. So next dice, that's his dice there. That one is German. So we're going to get back with that and see what the Germans are going to do in response. So the Panhard managed to succeed in its order test to come on the board. It's also going to target that German unit. It could not get, well, it is not in super short range. So it's a fraction of an inch away. So move for 4. The units in the open, but they are down. So 6s. Of which there are none. So no pins, nothing happens. I'm going to draw the next order dice. There's still a lot of British dice in here, but yet the dice is German. Now this is intriguing because the 88, that could potentially go after, here it is, this is actually not hitting. Well, they have to be able to see the majority of the vehicle, and they just barely can. The other target was the Recce carrier that also had a pin, but this poses a little bit of a threat right here. So we're actually going to try and do that shot. So, with Rommel's leadership, they have to do their order test first. And that's no problem. Pin goes away. And once again, this is going to be a 2 because there's no cover and they're definitely in short range. And Rommel, remember, gives them the +1. And they needed Rommel's leadership. So, for the first time, he has an effect on the game. That's going to be a hit right there. Let's see what kind of damage it does. Ooh. I think that is still going to get through. Because, what, that's about +7 or it's +7. So that does get through. But it's only 1 roll on the dice because it was against the front armor. And that is going to be an on fire. So I guess it's a good thing the officer is around. So there's your pin for that. And it's going to take an additional one. Now they've got to, again, do another one of these order tests here to stay on the board. Doesn't matter what kind of officer is around. So that's your first vehicle KO. And that's actually, I believe, that is 3 points. Yep. So the Germans get their vehicle kill. So I'm going to take this pin away here, but that changes the game a little bit too, because that's the first order dice out of the bag for the Germans. Speaking of order dice, let's draw the next one. That one's British, and we'll see how they want to respond to that development. With the final few dice, there was a series of down orders on observers and tows and other things like that. The French unit off board chose to stay off board just in case the airstrike came along, which will be rolling for that soon. But the Matilda just decided to push the envelope here, because the 88 can't chew it through its own guys at this, so it could potentially just run these guys over, do whatever, and it's all about getting off the board. So they're just going to try and distract the 88, the only thing that can hurt that other Matilda. And now we're going to roll on the German airstrike. So this is a 5 to see if it comes in this turn. It does not, so it will automatically come in on turn 6. So that's the end of turn 4. Let me see, there's a lot of casualties that have happened. And I think that first dice is going to be really, really important for the start of turn 5. So here's something that I never thought I was going to see in a game of bolt action, at least not one that I played. That's tanks running over guys. And it's especially appropriate here because this is Arras. That was the whole point, is that the British tanks were on the verge of overrunning the German positions. I spent a while looking at the rules, and basically it's the Germans do a morale test. I didn't see any negative modifiers. If they fail, they basically just run away, and the unit counts as a kill. They have 2 pins, so they need a 7 to stick around. There is no officer nearby. That is an 8. So that's a kill for the Matilda. And boy, if it had a little more movement, because apparently you just move straight ahead, and you can say, I'm just going to use this because it is a 12-inch ruler here. It is so close to nailing that observer. And they're actually going to take that full move. So they're just going to roll right over them, make them go away, and just like so. Because now it actually blocks the 88 from the Samoa over there. And that's going to be a major problem. And wow, that's going to be really interesting. So this unit is gone. That is another order dice out of the bag. It's got the first German unit that's killed. They're massively depleted, but it's the first one that is dead. I'm going to grab another order dice here and see if the British advance can continue. It does. That is a British dice. So we're going to check that out and be right back. British machine gun team. Try and put another pin on that machine gun team over there. So the Germans not going to shoot at that remaining infantry unit because they're down. And I believe the 6 is going to be required to hit because of the cover and the range. So that is a pin. Oof. That's a wound. Another 6 in that team is gone. But it's just a pin and the loss of a crew member. So there's our pin. And they're down. One crew member dice. Now there's going to be some more. Yep, there are definitely more British dice. Speaking of British dice, there's another one there. We'll be back, see what happens, and maybe another tank moves out. They're really starting to put the pressure on the Germans. So we're back on this side of the table again, and we've got the Matilda on the other flank. It's going to see what it can do, maybe finish off this machine gun team. Now, it's a slow vehicle, can only move 6. It's not in super short range, so move 4, cover 5, small team 6. 5 shots. There is a 6, so it's a pin, this at least, and it is another pin. So that's really, it's going to reduce their potential firepower. Now we're going to draw another dice here. That one is also British. We'll be back to see what kind of pressure we can put on them. So just to speed things up a little bit, I rolled the dice here. It was 5 shots from the wreckage carrier to the machine gun team. It hit twice, and it did 2 more kills. That's another dice out of the bag. And that's costly because that unit hasn't actually done anything yet. So that's something that I've learned is try and take out dice that are still in the bag instead of things that have already moved. So now the Germans are starting to feel it here. But again, that airstrike is coming. Depending on what plane that is, that could equalize these kills. Because remember, they don't get a lot of points for killing. They only get 1 point for killing stuff. The Germans get 2. And they get a whole bunch if they kill a vehicle. And they already killed 1. So, we'll be back with the next dice. So, this side of the board is under all kinds of assault now. Because the next dice was French. This unit went to assault. The shots were missed. Which probably didn't matter because they were down. So they're out in the open. The French get to go first. And they have 9 dice, to work with. And they need 4s. And that is done in classic fashion. So that is another dice out of the bag. And yet another German unit is taken out of the game. I'm going to draw a dice here, see what happens. That one's German. There's not a whole bunch left, so we're going to see what they can do with the loss of another squad. We actually have to do some consolidation move here. That's a big one. That's 4 inches. So we're going to move that French unit even closer to the... Oof, this is getting interesting. Now for the moment that you've all been waiting for. This is Rommel. He's going to, again, use his abilities here. What he did at Arras was basically go from gun to gun, especially the 88s, and say, you guys fire at this vehicle. And he's done it right here. And because he gives them the +1, they don't have the -1 for rotating. So they're not quite at super short, but it's still a 2 or better. And poof, in classic Rommel fashion, that's another 6. And it is +7 to the side. That is a 5. So that is, I believe that is a 12 versus 8. Gonna give him a pair of rolls. And that's gonna make that Matilda go up in flames. So once again, we have Rommel's really, he's on fire. Well, so's that tank. And he is doing what he's supposed to do. This is exactly, all of these things are kind of playing out the way I thought they should. So we're going to get you another dice here. That's British, but they are now down a tank. So we'll be back with that dice. The British drew a bunch of order dice. You can see they rallied here. We had the truck trying to move to a safe area. Howitzer fired and missed, but this is kind of critical right here. So we had this I believe, failing its order test because it's too far away from any officer support. That one pin was just enough. Over here, we had the Samurai able to make its orders test to move. It's just trying to get away from the 88, so it can maybe advance through the woods and shoot at it. Yeah, this French unit succeeded its order test, come on the board, but now with this last order dice, and the Germans were hoping that they would have the last order dice, because that howitzer now can try and shoot at that carrier. It's got a clean shot. There's no cover, there's no anything. It's definitely at short range, so 3s or better. That's going to be a hit. It's going to get its full +2. And that is going to do superficial damage. So that, had the Germans been able to take that out, its firepower, not so fantastic. But what it definitely could have done was get them, it's an armored vehicle, there would have been some points for them. So the British had to do something about that thing. And it could not ricochet away because it failed and had a down order. That is the end of turn 5. So now we have the all-important turn 6. Let's see if the Germans get an airstrike. And their airstrike does come in. We're going to see what type of plane that is, and we'll get back to you with the results. So we're trying to work out the German airstrike here, and things got really, really interesting. So what we did was we positioned the target, I guess 18 inches away you place the plane. The idea is, this is from what I saw at the last tournament, the plane basically sweeps over and can put pins and do other stuff to units along the way. At least that's what I was told how it works. Now, flak-wise, the Germans didn't have to worry about their 88 shooting on it. Didn't even have to take a test because Rommel, he knows what he's doing. And remember those pin markers on that Rickgate carrier? Well, this is the one thing that has flak. And take a look at this right here. Those 3 would have been hit without the pins. Those 3 would have been enough to actually shoot that plane down. As it is, 2 pin markers made it 7. And the best they could do is get 2 hits. You need 3 to take it out. So we're going to see what type of plane this is here, because we've got the old rule book. And that is a 4. And a 4 is a fighter bomber. So the target takes 2 additional pin markers. So there's 2 more. And you place a 3-inch template on it. Infantry go down. So actually, let's see. Here we go. You work out this. It's not stopped. The warplane is not stopped. They're targeting every unit from either side within 6 inches, and within 6 inches of the center of the warplane is potentially pinned. So that's what I was looking for. Let's see how many pins Tilde gets. It's going to get D3 minus 1, so it's going to get 1. We've got 2 there, and 1 more there. So there's 1, there's 2 here, 1 more on the vehicle, and it's a 3-inch template. We'll see if the Germans can take this out. And that is definitely going to penetrate from above, but yet not wipe it out. So I believe that's, I think it's on fire, actually. That's probably, and, well, now we're going to say it's dead. So I'm going to double check that on the rules. But we're just going to say there's no way a soft-skinned truck survives. That's important because that's a dice out of the bag. It's actually the first British unit to be taken out. So now we're going to draw the first order dice of the turn, because I believe the airstrike happens before anything else. Oh, that's interesting. That's a German dice. I'll be back with that. So once again, the howitzer is going to continue its duel with the Recce carrier. But that's actually, speaking of Recce, that's going to do just that. It's going to spin here. Yeah, I think it can do that. And it now gets away. Just there was kind of no point in that howitzer not trying it. I don't think it was going to last, because it's on the verge of being overrun. If I got lucky and hit it and killed it, well, taking out an armored unit is definitely valuable. So next dice. That's also German. So there's kind of some important stuff happening here, so we'll be back with that. So the German position here is pretty desperate. They're on the verge of being overrun. Can maybe try and thin down some of those numbers. This is the weakest unit here, potentially something that the mortar team could kill. And try and bring in fire. They need a 6. That's the opposite of a 6. So, I guess for what it's worth, I'll throw this on there, but that unit's going to be moving. Going to draw another dice. Speaking of which, that's British. We'll get back to you with that. We'll see what that one's going to do. So the British are closing in here. Closing in on Rommel's position, and that 88 that's sitting right there. Basically, can't really reach it and assault it this turn, but they're going to try and put some pins on that, make it difficult. So these are the shots that have range. Move is 4, and cover 5. And there's a whole bunch right there, and we've got 4 left. These are going to need 6s because of the range penalty, and there's one more. That was unexpected. Now they do have obviously a rather large gun shield, so these I'm sure are going to need 5s. However, there's still 2 of those, and you can't destroy the gun, doesn't matter. So 2 of the crew are going to go away. Actually, that's an officer right there. So I'll take the 2 closest guys. Obviously, they were not in range of the gun shield. And for what that's worth, a pin. The next dice is also British. I think what we're going to do is have somewhat of a repeat here with this unit. They're going to move away from that pressure. Actually, what they're going to do is, yeah, they can sneak through. So a couple of guys can. So basically, get the machine gunner, and they're just going to make this little daisy chain of guys here. So machine gunner, and they're going to need a loader. So it's just 4 shots from the machine gunner, move for 4, cover is 5, and there's 2 more. So they've lost 2 crew members. Can they lose 2 more? Nope. But piling up the pins, so even with Rommel there, it's going to make things extra difficult. And oof, this one is French. It would be interesting if the French basically sort of coup de grace this. So I'm going to get back to you with that in just a second. So you can sort of see the French back there in the woods. Well, they're targeting this officer team here, and they might as well go down, because at this point they need to actually preserve units. So that's going to make a big difference, because you were originally going from 4s, now it's 5, 6, it's 7s no matter what, because of the small team and down and the movement. And it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Every single thing misses. Let's draw the next order dice. That one's also French. And actually, since that was kind of fun, we're actually going to have Samoa. Yeah, it's just going to do a run move. Because the way it's going, well, it's at least going to take out that observer, because it makes no sense to just sit there and try and shoot because it can't see anything. That's going to be an order test. It passes that. Now the observer passes his. So he gets shoved out of the way. Samoa continues. All the way over there. It was about maybe an inch shy. We have the dice here. Well, that one's German, so why not? They have to do something about that vehicle, so they're going to try and fire at it. Order test required. And that is going to succeed. So one pin goes away. So twos. And maybe even at this point Rommel can't save the Germans because they just missed. So I think at this stage we're going to draw another order dice. That one is also German. And the howitzers fired. I think at this point all they can, Rommel's just going to go down here, try and preserve himself. He'll live to fight another day, maybe in Africa, who knows. And we've got ourselves a French dice, which means this unit over here is going to advance into the woods. So these guys here are going to advance into the woods, and they're going to try and take down the observer because there's really not a bunch else that they can do. Oops, that's the officer there. Wait a minute, I think we actually moved him. Well, they're just going to run because there could potentially still be a turn 7. So let's run them up here and let's really get a nice little assault going there. There's a whole bunch of British dice left in the bag. Eventually we're going to draw one of them, and we do. So I'll be back with that. And we'll see maybe if we can, well, can't run a Matilda off, but let's see if it can do some last bit of damage before it does. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of British and French order dice in the bag. It started out here, a run of them. Speaking of run, the officer ran out here to provide some leadership to these vehicles that got pinned in the airstrike. Matilda advanced forward because all that can threaten it is Hans and his squad of heroes over here. So it's been positioned to run off the board on turn 7. We had a miss once again by the light howitzer. One thing we do have is a fire order on the mortar, and just for the heck of it, it's going to target the 88. Remember, there are a couple of dead crew members there, so potentially, well, a 1's not going to do it. So we're going to see what's in the bag here. That one is German, and we'll see what, if anything, can be done with that. One of the reasons I ran the Matilda over here wasn't so much to try and shoot things, or it was to get off the board, but also prevent these guys from even attempting to assault it, because that is definitely out of bounds with the rules. You cannot assault something that has done a run action the previous turn, or that during that turn. So it's going to come down to order dice here. We're going to see what happens. First one is British, and that is probably your game, but we're going to see what happens. So that dice is worth 5 points for the British, and we'll see what the next one is. The next one is German. So what we're going to do is walk over to the other side here, other side of the board, and we'll continue this over here. So an order test will be required. That's gonna pass. The pin is removed, so they're obviously going after. So I saw the 1, but it turns into a 5. However, that's only enough for 1 dice on the damage chart. But that's all they need to brew up that vehicle. So the Samoa, Rommel gets 1 last victim. He's actually taken out 3 vehicles so far. There's just a string of nuked vehicles right here. So I'm going to put that destroyed marker on that vehicle and get another dice. Alright, British are closing in. We have a squad that's walking right up to the 88 to see if they can maybe take out some more of that crew. Actually, that pin's gone. So between the machine gun and all the rifles, they're all at short range. We've got some at super short. So you're looking at movement of 4, cover is 5, and there is a 5, and actually the machine gun also. So 3 possible, and add them all together, you maybe kill 1 guy because it's gun shield. Go back into the dice bag. And this one is the French, and they're really going to get some revenge now, because this, I'll move over here, and I'm going to do a quick range check to see if they can assault. They can indeed assault the 88. Now there are 7, so they're... Are they out of 6-inch range? They're actually not, so they actually don't get a chance to shoot. So you have 9 Frenchmen, and angry Frenchmen, because they just saw their Samoa go up in smoke there. And that is not considered to be in cover from that range. So we're going to get our dice out here. So there should be 9 dice. And the gun shield's not going to count now. And that is not quite enough to take out that gun crew, because it's a crew of 7, so there's 1 guy left. So the Germans do get to make 1 attack. That will kill 1 Frenchman. But now there's 8 dice on the return. Just make sure we have 8. And that's going to do it. And I believe at this point we are going to call this one a game. And Rommel, maybe he escapes. Maybe he sees the French again in the desert. We don't know. But definitely we have a Allied victory for for sure. We're going to do a final tally. But at this point, about all the Germans can do is fire that howitzer. Most everybody else is just down, trying to hide. So clearly, I think this really emphasizes the point that the French, could they have gotten their act together and shown up at Arras, they could possibly have helped make the British breakthrough more substantial. So thanks for staying with me through this 7-turn battle report, and we'll go through the final award ceremony. We'll do some analysis and give you the final tally. Here we have our top performers of this particular fight, the Battle of Arras. On the Allied side, we have the Matilda, with that brave tank commander that executed one of the more interesting orders that I've seen in a game of bolt action. That was running over that German squad that was busy chopping down a telephone pole. So that was some pretty dramatic action. And he was actually, in the end, taken out by Rommel and his crew on the 88. Interestingly enough, those 3 dice that you see there, the 2 French and 1 British, those are actually kills claimed by that crew. So that was all the German kills ended up being those 3 vehicles. 2 of the French, 1 of the British. So they had a busy afternoon, and the game played out as I had hoped. The 88 was targeting the vehicles, trying to take those down, just like in the actual Battle of Arras with Rommel's help. So that +1 that he conferred made a big difference. And also telling his crew not to shoot down their attack aircraft. The Matildas, well, they were slow. Well, it took them a long time to get where they needed to be. But one of those did manage to get across the board and break through the German lines. And that ultimately led to the Allied victory. It was 10-8. It would have probably been more. I drew 1 more order dice after the 88 crew was wiped out. And that was British, and they were able to run one of the Brennan carriers off the board. So there's no question. Even if the game had continued, that the British would have won. They would have lost a few more units. It was definitely not a slaughter by any stretch of the imagination. And that was the other aspect of the game that I liked, was that the French arriving exactly on time made that big difference. Because I think without the French in this battle, it would have British still probably win, but not that many units are going to get off the board safely. Like more infantry would have died trying to go forward and take out these gun positions. So there you have it for the Battle of Arras. You have your award winners for the game. Maybe you'll be seeing these guys again in a future matchup. I want to thank Table War for providing the mat, Green Stuff World Secret Weapon, Dice of War as always. You saw their new set of dice, the British dice, in action in this game. I want to thank everybody that's watched this and supports the Patreon page. That's where you're going to find more videos. You can find out how I sculpted and painted those objective markers / terrain pieces. So go there, check that out. Check out the blog. All kinds of how-to articles on how I made these roads, the trees. And I will catch you in the next report. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe.